All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks morning show. And
Louder.
every day we rise is a great day to be alive. And the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents, like I said, Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And I'm here with I'm James Slim Overton, and I'm here with I guess you'll be on later, Leo Drake Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman. Good morning, Colonel. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
All right, you're going to get a heavy dose of the host today, and one of the things we're gonna talk about a variety of things, and of course we locally here we have a primary coming up, a very important primary, and the colonel will talk a little bit about that, and might get a little bit about the national news, and we're going to talk about some of the shows we've had over the years, and how important it is, the information that we have shared with you, the audience, our faithful audience, and how important it is for us to receive your support and how to support us. And we'll talk about that as well. But we'll bring up some of the shows some of you probably have seen and some of you haven't seen, and encourage you to go back to our YouTube channel and check out some of the things that we have done, especially if it's a subject that might personally involve you or somebody in your family. But Colonel, talk about tomorrow is a primary. It's for the 18th 18th senatorial district, and maybe you can. It's the cause. I mean, we have two long time senators going against each other strictly because of redistricting. But they were in different districts at first, and then the Republicans, by them being in charge, the normal procedure for doing that type of redistricting uh, was done by an appointed commission by the Republicans, which normally would be done by members of the House or the Senate. So it looked like it was something that was planned to put these two long-term black senators against each other. But so it is what it is right now, but it's important for us to get out there tomorrow. Primaries are usually create a low voter turnout, and I think the early voting hadn't been as strong as it normally is for a regular election. But it's still this is still critical that if you haven't early voted, to get out there tomorrow. You have all day. You have from 6 in the morning to 7 to get out there and cast your vote. And Colonel, you can talk about how important it is, and what has been done by the Republicans to put us in this position in the first place.
Yeah, Slim. Well, and for those viewers out
Yeah,
there,
go ahead and do the.
well, this election for the state of Virginia, especially for this area, is all important because one, the Democrats have lost the House as far as the state of Virginia, and they have passed some crazy bills, and it's just a simple majority. And in the Senate has been a stopgap place that we can stop all these crazy bills that are coming forward to be signed by this Confederate governor who wants to run for president, Glenn Youngkin, with his sweaters. So we have a 1-seat majority. And so we Slim talked about the redistricting. What they did is they pitted two black senators, Democratic senators, against themselves. That means they can wipe out one of them just by default. And so Sproul is running against, or has been pitted against, Louise Lucas, who is the Senate pro tem, meaning the Senate, the most senior senator in our state, and the third most powerful person in our government, state government. And what that means is she has the chance, especially if we maintain the Senate or keep the Senate in this election, we can first stop all of the nonsense that comes through, and I'll talk later about what is some of the nonsense what's coming through, and also to I think we talked about one time she came on the show and said she'll be head of the appropriations committee, where that's where all the money that, or your taxpayer dollars that are coming in is appropriated from, and then you shift that. What it mean appropriation mean they put that money out and they guide it out to the different projects or different sections of our city or city and state. So that is a very place. So what it means is, where does the money go? It's all about the Benjamins. So if you go back to look at that, just that one piece, and Senator Sproul, who is, I think he's rated at number 30th in line of getting any chair seats, and we're going to peel back the onion to see what and who supports who. So during this campaign, I believe both of them have raised about $1 million to spend for this campaign this year. Senator Sproul, I'll start off with him, had his largest fundraiser in Northern Virginia. And his people that went with the fundraiser were majority Republicans. So they are pushing Sproul to beat Senator Lucas. Senator Sproul has also voted more times with the Republican Party than he has with the Democrats. So that commercial that you see, how he votes against gun rights, about women's health, and so on and so forth, that is a true statement. He hides behind the lie. I must say the lies that he's put out there, because that is a way that the Republicans do. You put a lie out there. Some people say it's untrue, but I'll say just a lie out there, and then you have to go back and prove that it is wrong. And the unknowing will believe it is true, because they won't believe. They're weak-minded, some people, and it'll keep on going, and you burn up a lot of gray matter trying to prove those lies were wrong. And so he has continually done this throughout this campaign. He is, I expect, if he wins this election, that he will switch, like the girl in North Carolina will switch parties to give the Republicans a supermajority, or give them the Senate, and then everything that you ever wanted will stop.
Yeah. Connor, you want to go ahead and give your disclaimer since
yes. So the other things I forgot to give a disclaimer: the views listed on this program are those of the host, and that is nobody. There's no third party endorsements or anything like that. And so these are all of our views. So the other piece, now that I've gotten that piece out of the way, I'll do some more housekeeping, is that the only way you're going to hear this kind of news and the truth is on this kind of a station and this kind of media. And we also need your help to continue to carry this kind of news to you. And so you can send a donation or an honorarium to Portsmouth Coffee Talk, P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. And we really need your help, because at 100%, I mean 100% goes back into keeping this program alive and also expand it. We want to expand it. And if we get enough, and I will tell you, we have a view of, if we get enough support from out there, then we can expand it into the FMs and go off to a different, maybe in a different time zone, and so we can reach even more people. So yes, that's my piece of housekeeping. But Slim will tell you other ways to get money this way.
Yes, of course. Cash App, $PCT 1220, $PCT 1220, or portion of coffee talk at yahoo.com. And that's all. You can go through the bank and contribute that way. And welcome, Leah.
Good
Good morning.
morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
Trying to
And
take
it,
care of some housekeeping here, you know.
yeah, we
Mhm.
understand.
I'm
And
the doctor's calling, so I'm gonna come right back, okay?
okay, yeah.
Right back.
And the colonel explained, we wanted to mention how important it is for you to participate in the primary tomorrow if you hadn't voted already. I think we have already voted, but and and on this show, a lot of times you hear our opinions, and which is why we do this. But a lot of the things or subjects that we talk about, we do research, and it is backed up by facts. A lot of the political commentary sometimes is our opinions, but it's after we have observed many things that are going on politically, locally, and nationally. Sometimes you can sort of couple those things together and see a pattern, especially between the Democrats and the Republicans, and apply some of that to what we see here locally. So we're giving our opinions on that, and you have yours, and we're on Facebook Live, and you can tune in and type in your comments to us, and we'll try to acknowledge it, if you agree with us or don't agree with us. But we're also going to talk about some of the shows that we've had, and they've not all been political. We've had shows on mental health. We've had shows that and most of the shows that we've had that we shared information with you has been really educational for us. I think you agree with that, don't you, Colonel? It's been
Yes, yes.
we especially the one we did on autism, that I was feeling or thinking a certain way about children that had autism, and didn't know that you really they grew into adults and they could really be functional with that autism. I just thought one way about that, and having people, experts, come on and talk more about that is sort of enlighten us about the broad spectrum of
Hmm.
autism. And we've had many shows like that where we've had really experts that we call them, well, actual experts come and explain different subjects to us that were new to us, and hopefully that might have been informative and helpful to the people in our audience. And that's what we try to do here. And we throw the politics in there because that's something that everybody wants to talk about, and it needs to be talked about, Colonel, because in most cases, and we joke, you, Colonel, about most subjects that we have and most information that we share, it's always something political angle in there, that you can bring up, that politics is involved in some kind of way. Politics is on your job. Politics is everywhere. So we've always bring in that mix of politics, and I think a lot of people in the beginning say, well, come on, politics is not every subject you bring up. But if you watch our shows and to see where the way Colonel brings that in, you have to agree that it's really relevant to most of the subjects that we cover here. And it helps in many cases explain what's going on in the real world with many of the subjects we bring in. I think you agree with that, don't you, Colonel?
Yes, yes. Politics affects everything because until you people don't realize that like housing assistance, politics affects that. On a national scene, the Republicans want to slash and burn money for housing assistance. And they own the House, and you'll see in October, and I'm gonna tell you now, they're already working out a bill to almost cut that by 30%. Can you imagine your housing assistant cutting by 30%?
Mm.
Those who get assistance for heating during the winter, look at that, between 20 and 25% cut.
Yeah, and these are not people that they might claim are sitting home on their butts. These are people, these are
Yes.
working class people that go to work every day, but they still need that assistance.
Mhm.
And that's what it's out there for, to help people, not only people that or might be on the government assistance, but working class people that out there working every day and still having a hard time making ends meet. And people always look at that, well, we're gonna cut these people out that's getting a free ride. But it's not a, just like you always say, the people watch the people that they affect. These cuts affect, the people they think that they're affecting or cutting out, it might be completely different. They're cutting out their own base. A lot of people in their base falls in those categories as far as needing that help, the working class that needs that help. But they don't see that until they go for those those uh, those assistance that's out there and it's not there anymore, or
Yeah,
it's cut to a point where you don't qualify. You know,
we'll go back to the just look at food assistance. We'll take that. And if you
mm,
look back 2 years ago, we had long lines. Folks were waiting in cars, waiting in lines to get a box of food. We're going to go back to that because they're also going to cut food assistance for everybody that's out there. And those are things that are going to affect the everyday working folks and everyday people in the Commonwealth. The other piece to that is those cuts, and you ask the question, why the cuts? Because at the state level, Governor Youngkin has already said he wants $1.5 billion of tax cuts for wealthy corporations. That's $1.5 billion that he wants to take off the top to give it to corporations. And he says, we're going to bring in more companies to create jobs. And there's no historical data to support what he wants to do. So he's going to take that off the top. So if you couple with that is that the state is probably in its best financial status that has ever been. Secondary to, we had a Democratic governor before Youngkin, and also the money that came down from the federal government because of the Democrats and President Joe Biden. That money is not going to come in the next 2 years because they've already taken off the House and House and on the federal level, and they have decided they are going to do the 25 to 30% cuts. So none of that COVID money is coming this way. So whatever we have in the bank, we'll say in the bank, they're going to either give it away or burn it up.
yeah, because they're saying, now that COVID is pretty much over, they releasing that money because there's still a lot of money there, and they're releasing it. So you're saying a lot of that money is not going to reach the people it needs to reach.
It's not. Well, and let me tell you something too. COVID is not over. Yes, the pandemic, the word pandemic,
Right.
COVID is over for that. But it is in a lesser degree, not a pandemic, but the epidemic of COVID is still here. You can still catch COVID. People are catching COVID every day. There are between 350 to 400 people in this country die every day because of COVID.
Yes, it's never going away. It's going to be around, and we're going to have to be getting shots just like we do the flu shots. It's one of those things that's going to be hanging around for a
Yes,
long
and they
time.
they
So
have a
we
new
still have to be
vaccine
careful.
that's coming out now. A new vaccine that's coming out, another booster is
Mhm.
coming out to take on the new variation of COVID that is in existence now. So
Yeah, like I
it's
said.
there. We don't want
Well,
to believe it, but it's there.
yes. And so you asked the question, here's the other question is, why do the Republicans at the federal level want to cut all money, eliminate all COVID funds for future research for vaccines for diseases like COVID and the next diseases that are coming down the pipe? All because of power and their way of saying we want to be physically conservative, where when they had Mr. Trump in office, he had the largest deficit than any other president ever in this country.
Yeah.
Ask that question.
And see if
Why?
you get an answer. You get the silence that you get. From us. But anyway, I mean, we talk politics on here, and you can agree or disagree. And we've had people on the show that their opinions that differ from ours, and had conversations. Somewhere the colonel kind of chewed them up and spit them out, but others have been just conversations where we agreed to differ. But some of the other things and the reason to support us, we rely on Norfolk State University for a lot of our experts that come in, Dr. Coletta Fairfax, uh, Dr. Bruce Copeland, Dr. Ernestine Duncan, and we bring them in quite often to bring in different subjects, and especially Dr. Coletta, we bring her in, but she's a professor of social work at Norfolk State, and we bring her in to talk about the study of human behavior and how that affects our communities. So make sure if you haven't seen some of those shows, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and go back to some of those shows that we have displayed there and look at some of those. These most of those shows are shows that are dealing with subjects that are out there and just as relevant today as they were when we recorded them. And it's a reason why we have them back from time to time, because it's always something that we can share with the public that's going on that might affect you or someone in your family. And I appreciate Norfolk State for that, for being a part of the system, the college system that we can tap into and bring in those experts to help us out on those
Great
different
source.
subjects.
Yes.
Yeah, great source that we use.
Well, saying that is that I also have to give props out to Dr. Ernestine Duncan, who is probably the one of the premier experts on behavioral health. And she is probably come on as our guest more often than any other guest out there, and has talked about a broad range and down the spectrum of behavioral health and how it affects just to everybody, and how behavioral health or mental health affects us every day. And so I just gotta give props to her also.
Yeah, she's been a part of this format in some way, some shape, form, or fashion since 2016. And anytime we call her, she comes on. We had her on during the holidays because a lot of people have issues then, and a lot of other subjects that we bring on. So it's important that you go to that Cash App and support us financially at $PCT 1220. And Colonel, what's that address of people still use the mail?
Yes, and that is, let me get to my thing here. It's Portsmouth Coffee Talk, P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707.
Or you can use Zelle, Portsmouth Coffee Talk at yahoo.com. Zelle, you can support us there. Or if you see us in the street, you can donate that way. You can just, and we out there. So we need your support to continue doing what we do here. And like I said, you don't have to agree with all our political positions, but you can come on our Facebook page and express yourself by way of comment, and we'll address it. Or you can ask to be a guest. We'll be glad to have someone who has a opposing position, to come on here and express themselves. And we'll give you all the time you need. But come prepared. That's all I have to say. Right,
Yes.
Lee?
Yes, come prepared. And so now that you've gotten that off the chest, and now I have to get something off the chest. Even those, and we talked about the federal government, we talked about state government, and now let's talk about the city government.
Oh, wow. That's a discussion within itself.
Yeah, special in itself. And so those who are, especially the two amigos that are left on the city council, we're looking forward for them to answer the phone one day and to come on. to answer for some of the shenanigans that they're doing every city council, from putting their cell phone up on the dais and trying to be kicked off, or just being as they call Trump, a petulant child, and not doing anything for the constituents that put him in office. And I am not saying his name because I don't want to give him credence to it, but they know who they are. Please come on to answer to the public. Why? Actually, I'd like to know, Slim, where's the recall? What's the status of the recall?
I don't know, but I saw someone the other day, and they're holding on to the numbers they have, and they're starting to start that back up again. But I must say this in all fairness, issue came up, and this is something. Feel the way you feel about, but the issue came up, and I think the person that brought it up was Dr. Whitaker, about the Elizabeth Manor Golf Country Club, who was a private country club who hasn't been paying their share of taxes since I think 2000. I'll just guess it was in the early or mid 2000s up until this point, or what they were being charged as far as their tax was being rebated back to them. And whoever made that deal, uh, I think what he is charging, that it didn't go through the council. It was something that one of the assessors back then made an agreement with them. That's what it looks like now. And I think the city attorney is looking into that. But that meeting, they had the figures up on the wall, and it showed that they got from the treasurer's office, and it showed all those years, they were assessed, with the tax, but the tax was given back to them, was abated back to them. And I don't know how that happened. And um, that's something that should be addressed there. Those guys should be liable. Hope it comes to that point to pay all those back taxes with interest. How can and imagine what us as individual homeowners, where we would be if we didn't pay our taxes. I mean, we couldn't go years, a few months. I mean, well, we get quarterly, and you go a few quarters without paying your taxes, then you're in court. I mean, the city treasurer is going after that money, which is not fair. And we've had over the years, it's been revealed that a lot of the big companies were delinquent on their taxes, but they were going after the homeowners, which is rightfully so. If you owe, you have to pay. But what about the big boys? And I think the same thing happened uh, with people with water bills, that were companies that were really delinquent. And how do they get so far delinquent when they're turning us off after missing two? So my point is, uh, sometimes the other council people have to be aware and look for those things. And sometimes, how does that go that long without being brought to the attention to the public, or the rest of the council members? Something is awry there, but it's been brought up. That's why I had to give him credit, because he brought it up and made sure and added it to the agenda. We had issues with him adding things to the agenda before, but this was something that was really important for the public to know and bring attention to it, and probably is going to spark some action, because the city attorney is on it now.
So yes, so saying that, and the city attorney looking at it, and so they didn't have any basis of law. And so what they should do is look at every piece of property, both commercial and also residential, and to see where those wrongs have been done, and go back and look at it. You can put it in an Excel spreadsheet and attack each one.
Mm-hmm.
So the people will pay, or the corporations will pay their fair shares. And then you also have to look at the city man, and what I'll say probably the previous city managers who have condoned that, to see what any kind of, if the allegation says it didn't go through the city council, did this previous city managers or city managers at the time approve those abatements illegally?
Yeah, I mean, anything that the assessor approves or any deal he works out, the city manager has the final say so, I would think, because
City
they are
manager has,
hurt.
yes.
Right. So, and that's one of the things when we had that revolving door of city managers, you know, they Yeah, and I'm not saying that's the reason, because it goes back further than that period we had all the revolving city managers. But some of those city managers before that was sitting there for a while, that should have been something that they should have picked up, or the city attorneys that were there before that should have picked that up. But
Well, even
uh,
past that,
mhm.
go back to look at the decisions of the Economic Development Committee. Did they make those promises to bring the businesses in? Did that happen? And then blessed off by the city manager, and then so on and so forth, and those organizations thrived.
And I
Yes.
don't know what happened. The time I was on there, everything that we did, I was a part of the Economic Development Authority, which sort of was the watchdog, and that's everything had to go through them as far as acquisitions. The city couldn't make deals like that, so they had to go through the Economic Development Authority, or the development department, Economic Development Department. And while I was there, I didn't see anything, because everything I saw that was done had to go, because the city manager would be in our meetings. So and I do remember when I first got on there and walked in that first meeting, it was like a meeting of the good old boys. I mean, everybody in there, and then it started changing. They started appointing still businessmen, but when I went in there, the whole place was full of guys that had connections with the city as far as their business, real
Yeah.
estate guys, every one of them. And it looks like, and that's why they had those meetings at 8 o'clock in the morning. Who goes to those meetings? It's open to the public, but who's going to go to those meetings at 8 o'clock in the morning? But I said that to say I didn't see anything when I was on there, and things could go by because the city manager was in there. But I'm not saying it didn't happen through that, you know.
Well, over the last few decades, when I say if I'm doing an investigation, we're starting with the city attorney. You really need somebody that knows what they're doing to go back and peel back the onion. And I've just peeled back the onion just now by saying, yes, we looked at the Economic Development Committee, and going back to that piece of the onion where it also starts. And so you have to peel the onion back, and you let the laws and whatever happened, whoever did it, let it come to light.
Let me transition from the radio. I want to thank all the listeners, WGPL 1350 AM, for watching. And please join us next Monday as we come back with another intriguing show. And let me say this, one of the problems they had years ago, that you had all these different departments that should have been communicating, that weren't communicating, because a lot of things that they did were connecting, like the assessor's office should have been connected with the economic development office or the planning department, because when I was on the planning commission, everything that came through the planning department and came to us as a commissioner, they had a little section there where other departments had their say about the project. But before that, we got nothing from the other department because they weren't talking. And that's how I believe the assessor's office made that deal and got away with it, because the departments weren't communicating properly. And I think it was, and I'll just make this assumption, I think it was solely on the assessor's office making that deal, and other people not knowing about it. I can't see if the city manager didn't know about it, but that's what happened. But it went on for years like that. That was one of those good old boy deals. just like it was with the housing authority when they had the same law firm for what was it, 70 years,
Just
Leah,
about 70 years, yes.
until one of the committees up there brought in Moody, you know, not to be the sole lawyer, but just to bringing in some diversity. But the same law firm had everything that the housing authority did for 70 years. And it's supposed to have been something that was open to other law firms, you know, but it never changed in that.
Yes, that's why you say you have to look at everything.
Everything, yeah.
From a top to bottom look. And it needs to go ahead and start sweeping. Because if you had, say, the instance of that law firm doing it for 70 years, something's wrong with that picture.
Mhm.
And
Leah,
so,
I have a question for you, Leah, and
Yes, sir.
you served on the school board when
Yes,
it was appointed as opposed to running.
right.
One thing, the first question is, if you had to run, would you run for that?
No, under
Okay,
no circumstances.
yeah, because that's something Ray did. He was appointed, and then later on he ran.
Man, yeah, yeah.
I
You
don't know
know,
if
I don't know. There, Portsmouth has some work to do.
yeah. And
You know,
the reason I asked you that, Leah, because do you think I guess it turns out to be the same thing as you talk about appointed judges or judges that run. It's still going to be political. 'Cause I was going to ask
Mhm.
you, do you think the appointed school board uh, was more
good
independent
morning.
than somebody running, than somebody
I,
having to run the
well,
office?
I think so because you don't have to play to the public so
Mhm.
much, and you try to
But
get in
wouldn't
and
that be a
do what
good
has to
thing
be done.
sometime?
Hmm?
Wouldn't that be a good thing sometime if you were elected by the public and your school board member?
Well, if you're elected and accountable to the public,
Hmm.
if you're accountable, that's one thing, But I just I think well, no, I guess I
Well,
shouldn't say that though.
well, you on the school. I mean, you on the school board during a different time. So
Definitely different
I think
time.
if y'all had to run when you were appointed, it might have been a little bit more
It
difficult
may
than it is
the
now.
makeup would have been a lot different
Yeah,
back then. The makeup
because
would have been a lot different.
it wasn't until you got some black councilmen on the city council
Exactly.
before they started appointing black members to the school board.
Exactly. Exactly. So I can't I really shouldn't have to say that elected is better than non-elected. It's all
It's
according to
subjective,
what
you
you
know.
bring to the table. It's all according to
Right.
what you bring to the table.
Hmm.
And we were more diverse then. But then when you look at the school system now, the school system is predominantly black now. So I we still need the diversity within the system because different eye views bring up different we see things differently, okay? And in seeing things differently, you can come together and you can discuss those differences and come up with a solution. But we all have the same eye view. Sometimes we don't see the entire picture. Am I making this sense for you, Colonel?
Yes, yes.
Because you need a diversity there. You
Hmm.
need to have individuals coming from different walks of life because different walks of life bring different things to the plate. And then you can address issues a lot better because I know when I served, we were very diverse, okay, and but yet we were
Build a new
able to
north.
go into the back room to discuss issues. There were things that we did not agree upon,
Right.
but at least when they brought it to the table, it was something that we could discuss and see how would this be better for the school system as a whole. And we fought, but we fought behind the scenes. But when everybody's on the same note, you can't get anything done, really, because you're all coming this. I'm
I
all
know.
over
Yeah.
the place this
So
I see
morning,
what you're
but
saying. I see what you're saying because sometimes when you have that back room conversation and people complain about that sometimes because sometimes that's important to have
it
that. So when you come out, you still don't have to come out and hold hands and sing "Kumbaya." You still can
no,
come out and have constructive conversation that
Exactly,
will be
exactly,
relevant to the way the people think. You might say, well, let me bring this issue up because people have told me this.
exactly,
But
exactly,
and so you're getting a conversation where everybody can understand the different, it's not a thing where, hey, you did this and
exactly.
you are ruled by the so sometimes that has to be said if it's
Hmm.
true, but sometimes, it's more detrimental because people are looking for leadership, they're looking for guidance. And sometimes that conversation in the back, long as it's legal back there,
Hmm.
whatever's going on, sometimes it helps the conversation when you bring it to the public. You don't have to still come out there and agree with everything, but when you bring it to the public, it's just more of a constructive conversation or more civilized, you know, and people will understand, why you made certain decisions.
Exactly, exactly,
That's just
exactly.
that's my opinion on that.
Well, there's pros and cons of elective government, meaning those who are elected to different positions, and also those who are appointed. Now, if I'm the appointing, depending on who is the appointing
Disappointing, yes.
person,
Yes.
then you get into the more politics of anything, especially nowadays where everything is either right or wrong, to the right or to the left. So but and that's one aspect. And then B is those who, if you have the elected office, they're accountable to the citizens. But then that strength in that model is also guided by those who have the money and have the stuff behind them to be elected.
You're right,
It's more
Colonel. You have the
important to
pros and
stay
cons
in
on
office.
Yes.
More
you have
important
the
to
pros
stay
and
in office.
cons on both sides. And just as James says, too, it also depends on who the individuals are who are appointing the
Yes.
individuals. That's important.
Mhm.
And once again, if you're running, if you can't get the funds, but you have what is needed in order to make this operation work, but you don't have the backing, you don't have the money, you can't get elected.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got 6 of one and half a dozen of other,
Yeah.
but
So actually, it'll go back to, and I'm just thinking about peeling back all this, the what I'll call the graph of the within the taxation part of the city. You can actually go back and look at who appointed those members of the Economic Development Committee, and then draw a straight or dotted line to who appointed them to
that's true.
also
That's very true.
to the decisions that they made. And
That's
then
true.
if there was a kickback somehow to all those decisions that they made,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to grease the scales. They grease the skids to make some of these things work, because you can't do it in a vacuum. One committee cannot make all of the decisions to take this money from the citizens and
Well, you're
not
right
come
about
to
that.
light.
If it was some kickback from the economic development, they skipped over me. I think I was appointed by, well, the council, but my name was brought up by Lee King, and I had worked as his campaign manager, so that was one part of it. But I was also coming off the planning commission. So, I had that experience there. And then I had worked for him. So sometimes when you work for people and you do things and they appoint you once they get in office, and that happens. But I never uh, saw anything. And we made a very unpopular decision on that Holiday Inn site.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't know if
yes,
you remember.
most
A
definitely.
lot of people were upset with us
Most
because
definitely.
it was and I'll explain why. It was a group that one of the stipulations was they had to have minorities involved, and we picked a group out of Texas as opposed to picking a local group that had minority group members locally, and they were like Johnny Morris and Ken Wright and things like that. But they asked for a 13-year tax holiday. They wanted 13 years to pay no taxes.
Yeah. And I
And
would have killed it right then.
well, I mean, that was one of the things. That was one of the things.
Mhm.
uh, we couldn't at the time afford, some of the people that got on us were looking at us like we turned down a group that had a minority group, which is one of the stipulations. And the group we picked, uh, they had minority, some things they were going to do for the schools and things like that, but they didn't have a minority group. But it was a lot to it, and a lot of people didn't see that part of the decision we made. And Ray was a part of that too as a councilman. He paid for that. the next
Mm,
the next cycle, they
mm,
voted him out. They couldn't vote me out because I wasn't, But also Reverend Fleming was on that, and he agreed with that as well. So that's just one of the things that happened. And Leah, like you said, you remember that, and a lot of people, why didn't y'all pick?
yep.
But they didn't look, they didn't see what we saw
Mm-hmm.
as far as what was, what they were asking for, and the experience, and we picked the company, and that fell through because the economy fell through.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
nothing, I think that would have happened with anybody we picked, even though the group we didn't pick said that it wouldn't have bothered them. But if it bothers a big group that came out of Texas, it probably would have bothered the local. Yeah, I have no idea, but
Yeah.
right now it's nothing there.
Right. Well, but I think that would have been, if I was sitting there, that would have been a very, very simple decision to kill that thing. When somebody asked for a tax
13,
abatement for
13-year
13
tax
years,
abatement. Yes.
Yeah,
you
I
will
mean,
never, the city will never, never, never make up that money in its lifetime. Because
if
after
we were a
13
rich
years,
city, if
that
we were a
that
rich city,
Holiday
they probably
Inn
could
is not a
do it.
Holiday Inn anymore. It's better to be redeveloped and gone off to doing something else. They would never get that money. That would have been a simple decision when you ask that. So if you peel back the onions on the previous discussion on the golf course and some of these other business, you wonder how many years of tax abatement did they get to bring these businesses on? And so that is a discussion that has gone on
It was about
across this
10 years.
nation when they
About
build
10
these big football stadiums, baseball stadiums, and other kind of sports stadiums,
Mm-hmm.
that the cities and the states are saying, you come in here, we'll put money in there, we'll give you the tax abatement, you keep all the money. And after that time period goes off, then you'll collect your money, but it never happens because there's time for those sports teams to move on.
I think the point that the councilman made when he brought that up, and was that when he was questioning the present interim city assessor, and one time she was the city assessor when that was going on. Okay, if this city assessor started it 10 years ago, and then you got all these city assessors in between that time, why didn't that change? If you saw that that was wrong, and the answer was that's the way it's always been done, but it wasn't policy. That was the point that the city councilman was making.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't policy. So if it wasn't policy, once you came into that position, you should have changed it, and it shouldn't have been a thing. Well, that's the way it's been done. Somebody
Yes,
started something up here, and you just going along because that's the way it's been done, but it's totally against policy.
but you
And
have to
that's
also
why I
look
had to
at,
give
you ask
credit
the,
to that person bringing it up.
right,
And
was
bringing
that
it
put
up.
in law? When I gave, say if you'd went with this thing for 13 years or any other business that gives an abatement, is it on paper? So if it's on paper, then I'm stuck with it for that period of time. But if it's not, then you need to go back and look at it and do what's right. And
They're
that's what you need to
saying
do with every business. And then
they're,
go back and say, who made that deal?
they,
Who
they're
made that
saying
deal? And hold them accountable.
they're
Get
saying
them out of there. Or
the
if
records
it's
that
been
would prove
shenanigans,
the
let the
records
law
that would
take care of them.
the records that will prove who made the deal are missing.
Hmm?
The records
I'm
that will
missing.
prove who made the deal
They're missing.
are missing.
Well, there's somewhere, but
Yeah,
if there's no record
that
of a
was the
deal,
answer. That was the answer.
then it makes it easy to say, we're going to put you on the same standard that everybody else has. So in this case point, done. There's no records. So if you have a tax abatement from way back when, there's no records of it, all of a sudden, and I believe the records are somewhere, because records don't there's no fire that's happened downtown in the records department. So there's some old clerk down there that knows where it's at in a box somewhere.
Michael Fish or somewhere.
Yeah, it is
Old way of
somewhere.
keeping- yeah.
But it just takes time and takes time and the effort to do it. And I'm not sure that, say, the city attorney has the juice to do that. And then you couple it, if something is wrong, you have to get the Commonwealth attorney to say, hey, bring charges on, a couple of these jokers if they don't come clean. If something is wrong, that's why we have a court system. So what say you, Slim, since you
So
said the
what
records
say
are
you,
gone?
Slim?
What about the records being missing?
Yeah,
I agree with you. They are somewhere. They're always. It's funny how when something like that happens, the records is always
Records
missing.
always disappear.
Something happens to the record. Well, I can't find them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were there at some points. It was some kind of agreement, not unless it was a handshake agreement, but it was stated that it's somewhere on paper that that agreement was made, and they can't find them. So
Mm.
that was what was said at the meeting.
so you have minutes. If it's said at a meeting, the minutes are somewhere. And so go find them.
Yeah.
Just make an extensive, you can put a team of 5, 6 dozen people and go through the records
Yeah,
from everything. You
being
don't
on
have
the board-
to, and you don't have to hire an outside group to do that, because you can do that. You got enough accountants working down in for the city and people that know how to do forensic studies to do this, and you don't have to pay anybody else to do this. You don't have to pay somebody $300,000 to get $80-something thousand back for some gift cards.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Somebody knows.
Nobody knows.
So
that-
yes,
That's that. I'm looking at one of the other big shows that we had. Well, of course, when we talked about the casino, that raised some high numbers, and I guess everybody. But I'm seeing now that it's still up there. It started out like we were getting 25 million a month, or where they were getting 25 million a month, and I think last month it was like 20 million, which is still good.
Mhm.
So what do y'all, I mean, because opponents against can say, see, it's not making, you know, the money it made in the beginning, but 20 million is not much not something to sneeze on. But of course, anything that's new is going to garner
It's
more,
going to generate more money,
rate
more
more
people
money
interested.
because people are interested. But people are still, I mean, if you ride by there, it's still full parking lot. So um, I think,
But not to the extent when they had the lines wrapped around the casino. So
yeah, it was something new. It was
yeah, it was something new and everybody wanted to be a part of it, you know? So I'm just wondering what's going to happen when Norfolk's casino comes up, you know, and that's going to be the new kid on the block. And they're talking about having an entertainment center as well as hotel and all those things attached to it. What impact is it going to have upon Rivers Casino?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, even before that casino comes, how consistent month by month
It's going to
that
be.
the casino is without competition.
Exactly,
And that's
exactly.
going
Wait,
to tell,
yeah.
if it keeps going down, and like I said, 20 million is not something
So what's the city's cut at that?
that I think
Is there in the
nine,
legislation, is there a cut, a certain percentage that they get other than the taxes they get for the people that are working there?
yeah, I think it's in the contract or written down. I don't want to say and misquote it without looking it up, but the city gets a certain amount each month that goes to uh, in their city coffers. I'll have to look it up and see exactly how much.
Because
Of course, the casino is making a lot more than
yeah,
you know,
because if
they have the overhead and everything.
right, if they sign a contract to say, okay, I get, the city will get a certain percentage of the gross versus cost, a depreciated cost, when I can write off all my money for business taxes, all the costs of doing such and such, and that 20 million, I'm only gonna pay taxes on, say, at the end of the day, 3 to 5 million of the 20. Because everything else is written off, because I'm depreciating the building, I'm depreciating the gaming tables and the chips, and everything is depreciated out in business taxes. And then so that lowers the amount of taxes threshold down. So depending on how that contract is made, then the city's not going to get that the kind of money that they thought they were going to get, regardless of it's 20 or 25 million. Did they sign in one of these ridiculous things just to get this business on? And is there a tax abatement for the land that they're on?
One of the councilmen said it was a bad deal.
Yeah.
Said the contract was a bad deal, but he's one of the ones that's being recalled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when he was saying that, I don't know if anybody really looked into that, but I think they spelled it out, you know, for people to see. So that's something we just have to look up and make sure next time we talk about it, we have the facts in front of us.
Yeah.
Because it's probably like you said, you know, like a sliding scale, you know, it'd be nice if it was set, you know, to say no matter what they make, we still gonna get a certain amount of tax. But I don't think it works like that. And the land, you know, the real estate, you know, tax, is that abated? Or
Well, yeah, is that abated? And did they give the land away for free? And I say free because they decrease the cost of it.
Sometimes when you're trying to attract the business, sometimes you might give away a little too much.
Yeah.
You know?
That has happened often in the city of Portsmouth, especially. So,
and that's one of the reasons I told you we didn't go for that 13-year holiday, tax holiday. As unpopular it was for us not to vote for them, I mean, that just didn't make sense. You know, we couldn't recover from that. Not Portsmouth.
Yeah. Shameful. So there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work to be done.
And they got to bring in new people.
It all boils down to us voting.
Yes.
It does.
We get what we don't vote for.
Right.
Yeah. That's the way. But
and it's crucial. It's crucial that you get out tomorrow and cast your vote, because I know I've been on and off, but I hope that you mentioned that Senator Lucas is up to be the chair of appropriations as well as the budget committee, which is very crucial to the regional area. In as much as the majority of the time that's gone to those individuals in Northern Virginia. And that's why Northern Virginia has been thriving so well. So we do need someone there who can generate some funds back down to this end of Virginia. And if she does not get on, it's going to be a while before we have someone who will be eligible to serve as chairperson. Is it finance? It's finance and appropriations. Am I correct?
Finance and
yes.
Finance and appropriations. So it'll be a while before we have someone who's eligible to be in that position. You have to have seniority in order to get to that position. You have to have served on numerous chairperson of numerous committees in order to get there. So
and
I'm hoping that people will.
The judicial committee, you have to have seniority to be on that, and
Yes,
judges come from.
Yes,
You know, which is so important. We have to control that. You know,
most definitely.
Yes. So also with that, you have to have somebody that has the stones to stand up to the power.
Exactly.
And then so we've seen that, yes, Senator Lucas has done that, has a history of that. And I look at the record of her opponent, and I haven't seen that yet. Personally, I have not seen that yet. And I don't think he will serve the citizens of the Commonwealth at all. At all. And it's going to be a shame if he's allowed to get in and to achieve power by a low turnout election. And that's his best chance. A low turnout election.
And it's kind of a shame that everything depends on this primary as far as keeping her in office.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like her chances running in the regular election against anybody, which she has done a lot of them unopposed because people knew they couldn't beat her. But to put those two together was really
Yeah, that was
a planned strategy.
Well, that was a great strategy because that's the only way you can beat her.
Yeah, and possibly losing both of those senates.
Exactly.
You know, after
Exactly.
November.
Yeah, the Republicans think, and Glenn Youngkin thinks, that yes, if Spruill wins, I can either bump Spruill off in the general, and or Spruill will change parties. Or C, he will vote mostly with the Republicans. So you got three things that are going to be negative for us in this area.
I think Spruill can beat Tony Goodman, who is going to be the Republican guy in November.
Well, who is this other guy who?
And that's what I'm confused about.
Someone told me that Tony was running as an independent. Is that so? Have you heard? Because the other guy said that he was running as the Republican.
Well, yeah, I saw that too, and I was confused about that. So I thought Tony was running as Republican, but you might be right. He might be because they don't have a primary. They
Right.
both run as
a Republican.
Republican.
Right.
And the guy that's running for the Republican Party is a black guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, that should tell you something there.
What's that?
A black Republican in the guise of like people like Uncle Tim down there in South Carolina.
That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show, yes.
But you know, we know that all these people is 13 now running for president, and
14
now.
14 now.
I know it was 2 that were undecided, but now it's 14.
14.
You know that's in favor of Trump. You know, you got people
and
most of those people are running to raise money because anytime you run,
raise money and raise your public face.
Yeah.
Raise your public face. Yes.
To get Trump gets in, then they get a appointment. They Secretary of HUD, Secretary of something. You know.
Well, you know, you get Secretary of HUD because one, you have your one minstrel man in office, and you say, I have inclusive because I have one. I've got I'll quote Trump. I have my Negro sitting in that chair. Where's my Negro? Where is my Negro? So you have Uncle Ben sitting in that chair.
We don't even use that term.
Yeah, but I quote, he's on record of calling out, where is my Negro?
Yes, he had said it, that's for sure.
And he looks over to Uncle Ben. Oh, Uncle Ben, you don't know, you're a Secretary of HUD and don't know the difference of Section 8 housing versus Section 8 in the ball stadium. And so only thing he did is use taxpayer money to go back in Florida every weekend for 4 years.
Before we go, and we're talking about Trump, let me bring up Biden there for a minute. And I heard some people discussing, and they were not arguing, but they had a discussion about Biden. If he wins, he probably will step aside. And they were talking about that. Well, one thing they were saying, he can't win with Kamala because people will think that she might be the president. And the person made the point that she was on the winning ticket, as vice president. So that's saying something because there was other women on vice president tickets that didn't
Mhm.
win. So you can't say the women, I mean, so she was on a winning ticket. So what do y'all think about the possibility or people not voting for Biden because their fear of, and I'm talking about some Democrats, some men, even Democrats are not ready for that. What do you think the possibility of people not voting for him because of her? He might be the next president. You think that's something that
I'll
will hurt
summarize it
the
for you.
election?
The media, especially state-run TV such as Fox, have spent the last couple years saying how bad this economy is. But when you look at the economy, and this even on the up until recently, even on more liberal media stations, they say how bad this economy. But we have record low unemployment. Inflation is coming down because we came out of a completely turn off of our economy that really destroyed the supply chains, meaning there was a difference in the amount of goods being sold and the amount of goods being available. So the being much smaller will raise the price. That's what inflation is. But that is on, for the 11th straight month, that is on a down tilt because Joe Biden has done the right thing of bringing back manufacturing to this country that Mr. Trump said, I'm going to do it. Bush said, I'm going to do it. Even Obama said I'd do it, but none of them did it, of bringing more manufacturing jobs back. So so you're being beat down every day, 24 hours a day, saying how bad this economy. Now, second point, Joe Biden has appointed more people of color to the judicial bench than any president in our nation, even doing in 2 years, even more than President Obama did in 8 years. In 8 years. And they'll say, yes, McConnell slapped him down and stood up, got everything about, tried to slow him down or stopped a lot of his judicial appointments. But they've done the same thing with Joe Biden. We have record unemployment amongst Hispanics, Black folks, and the Asians, and actually almost record low unemployment for Caucasian folks. Record unemployment numbers. This economy is booming. If you want a job, you can get a job. You just got to put your paperwork in. And then so to answer your question about Kamala, Joe Biden is going to run with what the team he has, and they can win. They have to win because our if they do not win, our democracy ends. Not at stake, but it will end. Mr. Trump will end our democracy within 1 year.
And Colonel, and it's important, and it's important to note too that women brought the Democrats to the dance.
Yes.
And the women, I think, will come together once again.
Yes.
And help to bring the party to the dance.
Yes.
Even with Kamala on the ticket, I think that it looks like he's trying to get her out there more, being seen in the public more. She was a formidable candidate when she was running. So I really, I agree with Colonel one way. I think that the media is trying to get people to think negatively about the ticket. So I'm just thinking the women are going to come through again. Yes,
you have to turn her loose, and she shouldn't be in the. I mean, she has been tied to the
to things that she can't win. She can't do anything about.
Well, yeah, but she's had to break those ties because it's basically a 50-50 Senate. So she's had to
Oh, you
break
talking
more
about ties within
ties
the Senate?
than
Oh,
anything in the Senate. And then
yeah.
so, but you have to get her out there, and she needs to be speaking somewhere in this country at least 3 to 4 days a week. And then Chuck Schumer needs to schedule all those controversial bills or either appointments only on one day. Say, Kamala, you fly in on Friday, and that's the only day we want to see you to break these ties. But the rest of the week, you're out there talking somewhere. Keep her on an airplane somewhere. And that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
That's the only way to do it.
and I agree. Just bringing up the talking
Yeah.
point, the
Yeah.
Republicans would seem to be louder, and that's why you have to be an informed voter. That's why you must watch For Some Coffee Talk, because we will let you know. If you don't have the time to check it out for yourself, we'll let you know the facts of what Biden has been doing, and you just need to pay attention to that, because and that noise, well, noise that message needs to get out there more and more, and that's what worries me the most, of the uninformed voter, or
Mm-hmm.
that, or we want everybody to vote, but the uninformed voter that will go a different way because they believe the hype. They
Mm-hmm.
believe what's more out there in their face. I mean, I think some news media now trying to back away some of them, but we can look at what Sense-6 as soon as we turn of age, get out
Exactly.
there and vote. And I don't know how much of that, maybe Leah, how much of that is going on now.
Not a
I guess
lot.
you
Not a
can't
lot
do a
anymore.
lot of political talking. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't pray. You can't pray in school, but can you talk politics? Or can you? And it doesn't have to be talking politics one way or another. Talk the importance of voting one way,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure the young people do that as soon as they're able to vote and be informed. I talked to a college student the other day, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was surprised. And this guy, well, anyway, I don't want to. I was surprised that that college student wasn't keeping up. I asked him. I said, "What's your political? I mean, how are you keeping up with that?" He said, "I don't keep up with that." I don't know. I said, it's kind of your future.
Mm-hmm.
That, you're turning a certain age, and pretty soon it's going to affect you. You're going to get married. You're going to have a house and all that stuff. And I hope he wasn't in the majority of college students. I don't think
Mhm.
so. I think
But
most of them are.
if he was to think about it, he'll see it's an impacting upon him right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
Before he gets married, before he has a family,
Affecting you right
politics is
now.
having a major impact upon his life right now.
yeah. He's probably one of the students that is out there amongst all the tens of thousands and millions of kids that are out there that are college students. One, he's probably got student loans that might be affected by Joe
Exactly.
Biden's attempt
Exactly.
to give him a $10,000 to $20,000 wiping out of his student loans. And he doesn't know that the Republican Party has fought that a bill or that action from its day start. He probably doesn't know that it's gone to this Supreme Court, who is bought and paid for by the Republican Party, that's going to say no, probably going to say no, that you can't get this. And so when he finds out, yes, you've got to pay all the student loans and you didn't make your point to try to fight for it, and the only way you could fight for it is to vote, then he wants to know, then he'll probably say, what happened? And then so the answer is what? You sat home. You weren't informed. So you deserve not to get what you're supposed to get. Well, you deserve to get what you're not supposed to get, meaning nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
When we in school, every once in a while, they have a day when we had to deal with current events.
Mhm.
You had this weekly reader that we had
Well,
to.
that was prior
Yeah,
to SOLs.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't do anything in
Yeah.
I
Can't
don't
do
SOL.
have time.
anything now.
Don't have time for that now.
No.
Yeah.
We had the current events. So by the time you got to the voting age, you had a little knowledge of what was going on.
Mhm.
And some teachers made you for grade go to council meetings. I know Benet used to have to go to council meetings and for a
Can't do
grade.
that anymore. That's wiped out. Can't do that anymore. It's not on the SOL.
They don't have to go. They can just watch it and then and come back to class and talk about it. But anyway,
That might be wiped out because if the teacher said something like that, they're gonna be fired.
it won't be allowed in Florida. I tell you that because he's
Yeah.
wiping everything out.
That's for sure.
Yes. The free state of Florida.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
we had the conversation today. Remember, you can support us at Cash App, $PCT 1220, or you can go Zelle, Personal Coffee Talk at yahoo.com, or P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. And support us in any way you can. Like I said, also, if you see us out there, you can grease
Yes.
our palm. But
Mhm.
we guarantee you, we'll put it back into what we're doing here and bring you more information. But go to our YouTube page and look at some of the videos. There's over 200 videos up there, and I know it'd be something that that will spark your interest, that will be helpful to you. Some of the shows we had. So go
Mhm.
back and look at those and continue to watch our new videos that we put up here. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And this is a
Thank
holiday.
you.
So
Yes.
I don't know.
Happy
If,
Juneteenth to everyone out there.
yeah, that was
Happy
a
Juneteenth.
amazing crowd out there
It was.
last night.
I only got a few minutes in. I left the hospital and I said, oh, if I can just get 30 minutes out there with my people.
Yeah,
And it was
were you able to park close? Because it was
I did, because when I got there, a lot of people were
some people
leaving.
had left. Yeah.
So so I got a great parking spot, and it was just good to be out there amongst everyone else and to celebrate the true freedom for us as enslaved people. So it was a good event. It was a good event.
Celebration of freedom, and there was a lot of young people out there. I hope they know it just wasn't a party; it was a celebration of
Ex-
freedom.
And that's the piece.
True
I know we get
history
ready to
of
go,
it.
but that's the piece that sorry that I missed, because I really wanted to catch Sherry Bailey's piece, because
Yeah.
Sherry Bailey gives you the
By the
historical
time I got
perspective.
down there was
Yeah, she gives a historical perspective,
Mhm.
and what we had from the Urban League is to have a good time, feel good portion of it. But I really wanted to make the portion that she had going on, but
It was my intention to
I
get
wasn't
it
able to get away from the hospital in
Yeah.
time. So
I hope somebody taped it.
yeah, I hope they did too, because I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, people, y'all have a great holiday. I know holidays for the Colonel don't stop the show.
Mm-hmm.
The honeydew list doesn't say no
Yeah, I
holiday.
got my list. I got to get ready and go get on it.
Leah, please give our regards to your husband.
I will. I will.
Hope everything goes well
Head
there.
back over there shortly.
Keep you in our prayers, and
Thank you.
and
Thank you very
are
much.
as well in our prayers. So, like I always tell you, take care of yourself too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, self-care is always good.
Thanks, everybody. And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice.
Our community,
In our future.
amen.
3 years to get that right.
You got it right for a change, huh?
Yeah, we've been getting it right.
Okay,
We
okay,
know.
okay.
All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Let me stop.